Imagine someone offered you a deal in exchange for a few compliments, a few likes, a few messages, and a little attention. You would slowly give away your focus, your ambition, and years of your professional potential. Would you accept that deal? Of course not. But millions of men unknowingly accept it every single day. Welcome to EvoLevex. Before we go any further, let's make one thing absolutely clear. This isn't a video against women. Healthy relationships can make your life richer, happier, and more meaningful. The real problem begins when your confidence depends on someone else's approval. Because the moment another person controls how you feel about yourself, they also begin influencing how you perform. And performance is what separates an average life from an extraordinary one. Think about it. How many times have you interrupted your work just to check whether someone replied to your message? How often have you opened Instagram without even realizing why? How many conversations have you replayed in your head instead of focusing on the task in front of you? Each moment seems insignificant, but together they quietly steal the one resource every successful entrepreneur, athlete, investor, and leader protects above everything else: attention. Because where your attention goes, your future follows. In today's video, we are going to uncover why the modern obsession with female validation quietly destroys ambition. How your brain is being manipulated into chasing approval instead of achievement. And most importantly, how to reclaim your focus before it costs you years of your life. By the end of this video, you will stop asking, how do I get more attention? And you will start asking a far more powerful question. How do I become so valuable that I no longer need it? Here is something most men never realize. You are not paying for validation with time. You are paying for it with mental energy. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while someone keeps drilling tiny holes in the bottom. No single hole seems like a problem, but together they make it impossible to fill the bucket. Your attention works the same way. Every notification, every unread message, every scene without a reply, every urge to check someone's profile creates another hole. Individually, they seem harmless. Collectively, they destroy your ability to think deeply. Psychologists call this attention residue. Whenever you switch from meaningful work to something emotionally engaging, part of your attention remains attached to what interrupted you. You may return to your laptop, but your mind is still replaying the conversation. Did I say the wrong thing? Should I text again? Why hasn't she replied? That is mental energy you can never use to solve problems, learn new skills, or make better decisions. Now imagine this happening 30 or 40 times every day. No wonder so many talented men feel busy but never seem to move ahead. They are constantly working but rarely thinking deeply. And deep thinking is where careers are built. It is where businesses are created. It is where life-changing ideas are born. The world's highest performers aren't successful because they have more hours than everyone else. They simply protect those hours better. While most people are reacting to notifications, they are building products, learning skills, closing deals, writing books, creating opportunities. The difference between an average career and an extraordinary one often isn't intelligence. It is uninterrupted focus. Every distraction feels small in the moment, but over months and years, those small distractions quietly become the biggest obstacle standing between you and your true potential. If seeking validation is so expensive, why does your brain keep doing it? Because your brain wasn't designed for the modern world. It was designed for survival. Thousands of years ago, being accepted by your tribe wasn't about popularity. It was about staying alive. Rejection could mean isolation. Isolation could mean death. So your brain evolved to pay extraordinary attention to social approval. Fast forward to today, you are no longer worried about being abandoned in the wilderness, but your brain still reacts to social signals as if your survival depends on them. Every notification, every compliment, every flirtatious message, every new follower feels like proof that you belong. The problem is that social media companies and dating apps understand this psychology extremely well. Their business isn't simply connecting people, their business is capturing your attention. The longer you keep checking, refreshing, waiting, and hoping, the more valuable you become to their platform. Think about it, when you are building something meaningful, you are unavailable to advertisers. But when you are endlessly scrolling in search of validation, you are the perfect customer. That is why these platforms are designed to keep you emotionally engaged rather than intellectually fulfilled. The tragedy is that many men confuse being constantly stimulated with actually making progress. But those are two completely different things. Progress is often quiet. It happens while studying after everyone else has gone to sleep. It happens while practicing a difficult skill. It happens while solving problems nobody applauds you for. Validation, on the other hand, is loud. It gives you an instant emotional reward without requiring long-term effort. And that is why it is so dangerous. One trains you to seek applause. The other trains you to become exceptional. The man who learns to delay applause in exchange for mastery will almost always outperform the man who constantly needs to be noticed. Think about the people you admire most. The greatest entrepreneurs, the greatest scientists, the greatest inventors, the greatest military commanders. None of them built extraordinary lives because they were obsessed with being liked. They became extraordinary because they became obsessed with becoming excellent. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple by checking whether strangers approved of him. Elon Musk didn't create multiple billion-dollar companies by refreshing his social media every 5 minutes. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam didn't become one of India's most respected figures by seeking constant validation. Different countries, different generations, different personalities. One common trait, an almost unreasonable commitment to meaningful work. That is the pattern history keeps repeating. The people who leave the biggest mark on the world usually spend less time asking who is paying attention to me and far more time asking what problem can I solve. Because the marketplace doesn't reward neediness, it rewards usefulness. Your income is rarely determined by how attractive people think you are. It is determined by the value you create. Can you lead a team? Can you negotiate a difficult deal? Can you build a company? Can you write software? Can you sell? Can you solve problems that others cannot? Those are the questions the world pays for. Here's the irony. The more your life revolves around building competence, the more naturally respect begins to follow. People trust disciplined men. They admire focused men. They are drawn toward men with purpose. Not because those men demanded attention, but because they became impossible to ignore. Real status is never chased. It is earned through years of consistent excellence. And excellence begins the moment your mission becomes more important than your need for approval. So, how do you break this cycle? You don't do it by suppressing your desire for validation. You replace it with something far more powerful. Progress. The human mind needs evidence that it is moving forward. If it doesn't find that evidence in your work, your fitness, your finances, or your skills, it will go looking for it somewhere easier. Usually that means seeking attention from other people. That is why so many men feel emotionally dependent during periods of stagnation. When you are not growing, external approval starts filling the gap. But when you are making measurable progress every week, something remarkable happens. You stop checking whether people notice you because you notice yourself changing. The weight you have lost, the business you have launched, the money you have saved, the certification you have earned. The book you have finished, the confidence you have built, these victories may not attract thousands of likes online, but they create something far more valuable: self-respect. And self-respect changes the way you walk into every room. You no longer need to impress people. You simply need to keep your promises to yourself. Start asking better questions every morning. Not who texted me. Ask what skill will I improve today. Not who noticed my post. Ask what did I create today. Not how do I get more attention. Ask how do I become more valuable. Those questions redirect your attention from outcomes you can't control to actions you can. And that is where real confidence is built, because confidence isn't born from being admired. It is born from repeatedly proving to yourself that you are capable of difficult things. The more evidence you collect, the less dependent you become on anyone else's opinion. Imagine two versions of yourself 5 years from now. The first man still begins every morning the same way. He reaches for his phone before he even gets out of bed. He checks messages, checks social media, checks who viewed his story, checks who replied. His mood rises and falls depending on what he finds. If people notice him, he feels confident. If they don't, he feels invisible. His life is still being controlled by forces outside his control. Now imagine the second man. He wakes up with a plan before the world asks for his attention. He is already invested it in himself. He trains his body, he studies his craft, he builds his business, he strengthens his finances, he protects his health, he keeps the promises he made to himself yesterday. Over time, something extraordinary happens. His confidence stops coming from compliments. It comes from evidence. Evidence that he can solve difficult problems. Evidence that he can remain disciplined when motivation disappears. Evidence that he is becoming more capable every single month. Ironically, this is often the man who receives the most respect, not because he spent years trying to impress people, but because purpose has a magnetic quality. People naturally gravitate toward individuals who are building something meaningful. They trust men who remain calm under pressure. They admire men whose identity isn't shaken by rejection. The greatest freedom you will ever experience isn't having everyone like you. It is reaching a point where your mission matters more than anyone's approval. That is the moment you stop reacting to life and start leading it. At the beginning of this video, I asked you a simple question. If someone offered you a few moments of attention in exchange for years of your potential, would you take that deal? By now, you already know the answer. Every day, your attention is making a choice. It can be invested in building skills or spent chasing approval. It can create wealth or fuel comparison. It can strengthen your future or keep you emotionally dependent on people who were never meant to define your worth. The harsh reality is this: the world doesn't reward the man who is noticed the most. It rewards the man who becomes the most useful, the one who can solve problems, create value, lead others, remain disciplined when distractions are everywhere. Remember, validation is borrowed confidence. Achievement is earned confidence. One disappears the moment people stop applauding. The other stays with you because no one can take away the work you have already done. So the next time you feel the urge to check your phone for the 10th time, pause for a moment. Ask yourself one simple question. Am I looking for approval, or am I building the man I want to become? That single question repeatedly every day can change the direction of your career, your finances, your relationships, and ultimately your life. If this video challenged the way you think, hit the like button and subscribe to evolutionary for practical insights on discipline, masculinity, wealth, and high performance. And before you leave, tell us in the comments what is one distraction you'll eliminate this week so you can focus on becoming the man your future self will be proud of. Until next time, stop chasing attention, start building excellence, because the man who becomes truly valuable never has to beg the world to notice him.